Unicorns Talk is a weekly podcast where we discuss the ups and downs of the human experience, from personal growth to romantic relationships and everything in between. This show is for life livers, life lovers, and life enhancers. My name is Latrice Sampson Richards, your life enhancement coach, and together we're going to laugh, love, and learn to maneuver all of life's little messes. Let's go. Hey everybody, it's Latrice Sampson Richards here. I'm so excited to be with y'all today. You are tuned in to Unicorns Talk. This is actually episode 2 of Unicorns Talk, and I'm so happy to be with y'all. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. Today's topic is, when is it not a good idea to fight for your relationship? I'm in several Facebook groups. One of those groups in particular is basically like a group for wives. It's Bible-based, and it's actually a very helpful group. I really like it a lot. So this week a lady posted on there about her relationship, obviously about her marriage, and she was just talking about how her husband is just not really participating in the marriage the way that she needs him to, or the way that he used to, and that he kind of uses her, and she's not sure what to do about it. And so she was asking for some feedback from the group on how to handle the situation. And all of the responses that she received was, girl, just pray about it and fight for your relationship. And the more information she gave, because as people were asking questions, she was providing more and more information. And as she was providing this information, I'm reading the thread, and I'm just kind of like, nobody is really listening to what this woman is saying. Her relationship is not a relationship that maybe she needs to be fighting for based on the information that she shared. And so that prompted me to want to talk about this today and really try to outline the top 5 reasons, or at least 5, because there's a lot more, but these are 5 times when it's not a good idea to fight for your relationship. You have to know when it's time to let go. And I think as women, we really struggle with that sometimes. But sometimes you have to cut your losses and know when it's time to let go. So today we're talking about 5 times when it's not a good idea to fight for your relationship. The first is if there's any type of physical abuse in a relationship. And a part of me feels like I shouldn't even have to say this, but unfortunately it is something that has to be said. Now I want to be clear. I'm not talking about when your husband walked by and he smacked you on your ass or something like that, or what people might consider love taps. My husband smacks my butt all the time. And I actually kind of like it, that's kind of our thing. So I'm not talking about signs of affection or things like that. I'm talking about real physical abuse, when there's bruising, grabbing, punching, shoving, any type of unwanted sexual advances or actions, even to the point of rape. And I've heard people say before that, your husband can't rape you. And that is a lie. That is a lie. Anybody can rape you. If there's an unwanted physical action and an aggressive physical action that's not wanted, that's a problem. And if that's happening in your relationship, then you might want to reconsider continuing to participate in that relationship. I definitely want to point out that it's important for us to really pay attention to the signs. It's very rare that physical abuse just kind of pops up out of the blue. It usually is something that grows over time. Most physical abusers kind of test the waters early on. Now, I'm not saying that this is, the end all to be all. I'm sure that there's always an exception to the rule. But in general, these things don't just pop up all of a sudden, okay? These things tend to grow over time. For example, a friend of mine in college used to play fight with her boyfriend as foreplay. We used to call it slap boxing. I don't know what y'all called it, but we called it slap boxing. And the guy that I was dating at the time, he used to try to play fight with me and stuff like that. And I'm like, we're not doing that. That don't work in our relationship, because all it's going to take is for one time for you to hit me too damn hard, and then I'm going to be ready to fight for real. Okay. But anyway, they used to play fight a lot. And it got really rough sometimes, and eventually that morphed into a full-blown physical abuse and emotional abuse in their relationship. Now that's an isolated example, but it is an example of what I'm talking about. These things don't just happen out the blue typically. Okay, typically there's a buildup to these types of things. And so you want to definitely pay attention to the signs and make sure that you're not putting yourself in a position to be victimized in that way. So if there's any type of physical abuse in your relationship, it's not a good idea to fight for that relationship. The next one is emotional or verbal abuse. And again, I kind of feel like this should be understood, but unfortunately it's not. I want to talk a little bit about what emotional and verbal abuse is, because I think that a lot of times we experience these things in our relationships, but we don't see it as that. We see it as, that's just how we talk, or that's just how we interact with each other and things like that. There's a difference between someone being abrasive or someone who, is maybe a little bit of a smart ass or kind of like, arrogant and stuff like that, and someone just being emotionally or verbally abusive. So anytime there's consistent name calling, put downs, but not just joking or sarcasm. I'm talking about real name calling you all kinds of things, everything but the child of God, like the old folks used to say. Okay. Other examples is if someone is using or withholding intimacy for personal gain, not just physical intimacy in terms of sex and things like that, but intimacy, connection, right? If somebody is withholding connection or using connection to their own benefit or for their personal gain, that's a problem. That's a problem. And that's not a relationship that you should continue to participate in. All right. We call that playing head games. Right? And these can include all kinds of things like suicidal ideation or threats of suicidal ideation during or after an argument is a really big one. Right? Just because we had an argument, you're going to threaten to harm yourself or to kill yourself or something like that, because you know that that's going to pull on my emotions, and I'm more likely to come back to you because I don't want anything bad to happen to you. That's abuse. That's emotional abuse. Okay, so emotions are very powerful weapons because they're very, very personal experiences. And so anyone who uses your emotions against you for their own gain is not worth the fight. It's not worth it. And nobody else is responsible for your emotional stability but you. So emotional or verbal abuse, definitely not worth the fight. All right. The third is just straight up incompatibility. This doesn't mean that you have to be exactly the same. I think we can take a lesson from fashion here. There used to be a show called What Not to Wear with Stacey London, and I was watching that show one day, and Stacey said something to one of the clients that really resonated with me for some reason. And she said, it doesn't have to match, it just has to go. And I think that is, in general, what you should be striving for in your relationship. So when I talk about incompatibility, I don't mean we like the same colors and we like to do the same things and we're the exact same person and he's the male version of me or she's the female version of me. That doesn't always make for a happy, healthy relationship. What I'm talking about is core compatibility. If at your core you are two different people, then the relationship has no chance, and you just need to cut your losses as early as possible. So what are some examples of core compatibilities? Well, financial ideations, right? And that doesn't mean that we both have to be really frugal, or we both have to really, like that we have to have the same approach to money. We can have a different approach to money as long as we're able to come to common ground as it relates to our money, okay? Another core compatibility is your life vision or the goals that you have set for yourselves. Again, you don't have to have the exact same goals, but you do at least have to both have goals. Okay? I have worked with so many people who, just the relationship is not working out because the other person doesn't have any ambition, and this person is full of ambition, and I want the world, and I want to be successful, and I want to achieve this and achieve that, and the other partner is just kind of like, yeah, well, we got a car, we not eating out the trash, so we good. Your core compatibility in terms of what kind of life do you want to have for yourself? What kind of goals have you set up for yourself? Those types of things are important. Things like child rearing, things like that, spirituality, not religion, but spirituality. Okay, it speaks more to the spiritual connectedness than it does to like a religious ideation. All right. So you don't have to both be Christian. You don't both have to be Muslim or anything like that. But is there a spiritual connection between the two of you? Are you equally yoked when it comes to your spirituality? All right. So it's okay for you to be your own independent person. And in actuality, it's necessary for you to be your own independent person. But something has to be able to tie you all to each other long term, because when the newness wears off and the fuzzy wuzzies wear off and you come down off that high of a new relationship, and you realize that there's nothing between you, that there's nothing holding you there or holding you to that other person, connecting you all, you're going to find some issues. And if you're not able to establish some connection with each other or establish some common core compatibilities with each other, it's not a relationship that's worth fighting for. All right. The fourth time that it's not a relationship that you need to fight for, or it's not a good idea to fight for, is if one person no longer wants to participate in the relationship. Now listen, I really believe that a relationship requires two participants or more, if that's your thing, no judgment. But if one person no longer wants to be in the relationship, it's no longer a relationship. The relationship no longer exists. And that's just what it is. So if one of the persons in the relationship says, I don't want to be here anymore, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm positive that this is not what I want for my life, I don't want to be in this relationship, then you have to let it go. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it's going to hurt and it's going to suck. And sometimes it's unfair. But that person has the right to choose to no longer participate in a relationship. So if someone is telling you that they are choosing to no longer participate in a relationship with you, you have to stop trying to fight for it. Now, I will say this. Sometimes the person who's saying that they don't want to be in a relationship is not sure whether or not they want to be in a relationship, right? So they're still trying to figure out. Maybe there's some things about the relationship or the connection that is not appealing to them. Maybe they're not feeling fulfilled. Maybe somebody else has caught their eye, but they still have feelings for you. These are things that actually happen in relationships. These are not just excuses. These are very real topics and subjects and things that happen, okay? In that situation, meaning you and your spouse, you have to figure out if those things can be worked out. That person has to be able to get down to the bottom of that, and you have to be able to give them the space to do that, okay? Whether that's going to counseling, working on those issues, maybe reviving the passion that once existed in a relationship, but you have to be able to provide them with the space that they need to figure out whatever it is that they want to do. When they say they are done for real, though, you have to let it go. And not letting go is not fair. It's unfair to them and it's unfair to you. It's not fair to them because no matter what the circumstances are, they have the right to choose to no longer to be in a relationship, especially and even if children are involved. Children are not a good enough reason to stay in a relationship. I will repeat that. Children are not a good enough reason to stay in a relationship. What is it that you want to teach to your kids about what it means to be in a healthy relationship? Right? Do you want them to believe that it's okay to be in an unhappy relationship because you're doing your due diligence? Or do you want them to know that if they're not happy, they can move on? They can choose to do something different and find happiness, and that there is a right and a wrong way to pursue that. It's also not fair for you because you're not giving yourself an opportunity to really forgive, heal, and move on. Because maybe there's somebody else further down the line that's better equipped to give you what you need. Okay? And then the fifth and final for today anyway, time that it is not a good idea to fight for your relationship is if the relationship is no longer serving you. If you are no longer benefiting from that connection in your life, then why are you there? Or worse, if you are suffering as a direct or indirect result of maintaining this connection, whether that's financially, physically, health-wise, maybe struggling in other relationships, struggling emotionally, things like that, there's no reason for you to continue to participate in that relationship, and it's not one that's worth saving. If you're not benefiting from being in a relationship, it doesn't need to exist for you anymore. So that's all I have for y'all today. Those are the top times when it's not a good idea to fight for your relationship. Let me know what you think. Send me a message. What are your thoughts on these? Do any of these things, do you find yourself in these relationships right now or struggling with some of these issues? Maybe did you come to a realization that it's time for you to let go of some stuff for somebody? Let me know. Reality check is coming up next. This week's reality check goes to Jackie Christie. So I have been watching her on Basketball Wives, and listen, Jackie is a whole other kind of mess. And one of my friends actually told me, or asked me rather, to give my thoughts on Miss Christie, and so I'm much happy to oblige this week. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I think is going on with Jackie and what lessons you can take from it in order to ensure that you don't keep this type of person in your life. So first of all, I want to say you have to be cautious about somebody like Jackie Christie, okay? Jackie Christie is a people pleaser. And before we get started really breaking down what I mean by this, I want to say first of all that there's two different kinds of people pleasers. There's one type of people pleaser who really is in it for social gain, somebody who really wants to help themselves. And the other type of people pleaser is someone who's in it for social change, who's really more interested in helping others. Jackie, I believe, is the latter. She is in it for social gain. Jackie will basically say or do whatever the situation calls for in order to save herself or to enhance herself. So what do I mean by that? I mean that she will lie, she will smile and agree, she will deny, she will gossip. She's going to say or do whatever she needs to do to get along with the group of people that she's in front of in that moment. You have to be very cautious about somebody like this because you never really know what their end game is. At the end of the day, they really just want to make you happy only so that they can be accepted, be popular, be whatever it is that they're trying to get. As long as they look good or come out looking like the hero at the end of it all, then they're going to say and do whatever they can to make you believe that, okay? These type of people are really not trustworthy people, and I don't see how anybody could be trusting of Jackie Christie. Jackie has had several incidences where she has, talked behind people's back. She's said things about people. She's agreed with people's feelings even when she didn't really agree with people's feelings. She has said things and then denied that she said them, and it's just, it's a hot mess. It really is. Jackie needs a reality check like anybody I've ever seen. Let's talk a little bit about where this all comes from. In my opinion, I think it's rooted in insecurity, and it's obvious that Jackie has a lot of insecurities. I think she wears a mask, but she wears a facade. It's not really who she is. And all of the talking that she does about sex and being young and being hot and being glam, I think it's a front. It's not real. She's hiding some very serious insecurities, which is why she wants to be a part of a group bigger than herself. Whenever she, is called out on her stuff, basically, when somebody calls to the table that you said this and now you're saying that, then she gets explosive. And this is a hallmark of a social game people pleaser. They get explosive in order to overcompensate for the lies and the deception that they've been told, or to just hide the insecurities. Taking point a couple weeks ago, the situation with, what's her name? Bonnie Jill. Okay, what happens is they pinpoint what they believe is the easiest target, somebody that they, for whatever reason, might feel like is weaker than them or lesser than them, or has a less likelihood of snapping back. Okay, and everybody knows, even Evelyn said, which side note, I love Evelyn, but that's a different talk for a different day. But even Evelyn said, like, why is anybody messing with Bonnie Jill? Now, don't get me wrong, Bonnie Jill, she ain't no kitten or nothing like that. She got a little snapback in her as well. But Bonnie Jill was the least threatening person at that table. She knew that if she went after Bonnie Jill was not going to fight back, not going to go back and forth with her the way that the other ladies would have. She was an easy target. And so when she was called out on her deception, she became explosive toward Bonnie Jill in order to cover up the lies, change the situation, or change the topic, or rather, and try to make it about Bonnie Jill versus making it about the reality of what she said. Jackie Christie is one of those people that you need to learn from. When you are choosing people to be in your life, when you're choosing people to participate in your world, you always have to be looking and paying attention to the person that people are showing themselves to be. I'm not saying that Jackie isn't a good person. I do believe that she's a good person, and I do believe that she really just wants to be liked. She just really wants to have friends. She wants to feel like she has strong connections, and I don't fault her for that. Everybody wants to feel like they are a part of something bigger than themselves. The issue is because, one, Jackie, I think, does not know who she is and or is not comfortable with who she is. And so she becomes whatever she needs to be in that moment in order to get along, in order to survive, in order to be a part of, in order to participate, in order to please the people that are there in that moment. That's a very dangerous person, and you cannot trust a person like that. If you are not comfortable with who you are at all times, and if you are not confident enough to show yourself to people on a consistent and regular basis, you're wishy-washy, you're up and down, sometimes sometimes you're my friend, sometimes you're not my friend, you can't trust somebody like that. You can't be around me. You can't be around me. Tammy Roman is one of my favorite people in the entire world, even though I don't really think Tammy and I could be friends because, I just don't think that our personalities would mesh. But I respect Tammy because, as crazy as she may be, as much as she may pop off, Tammy is the same person every single day. You know what you're getting when you're dealing with Tammy Roman, and I have to respect that. You can't help but to respect that. Jackie Christie is the exact opposite. You never know who you're getting. You never know what you're dealing with, because at the end of the day, she's just trying to please whoever she's around in that moment in order to fit in or get what she needs to get out of the situation. That's not a real friend. And if you have anybody in your life that fits that description, girl, you need to not walk, not turn and walk, but you need to run in the opposite direction. Okay? So that's this week's reality check. Jackie Christie, get your life, girl. All right, that's all I have for y'all tonight. Thank you so much for supporting and listening, tuning in to episode 2 of Unicorns Talk. Let me know what you thought about tonight's episode. What are your thoughts on Jackie and her situation dealing with people pleasers? Also, have you ever found yourself in the types of relationships that we talked about tonight? Give me some feedback. Make sure you follow me on all social media, Facebook and Instagram at Latrice Sampson Richards, Twitter at Sam Richards, and of course stop by the website latricesampsonrichards.com. If you have any show topic ideas or anything like that, something you just want my opinion on, you can go ahead and let me know through the website. Okay, all right, I love y'all so much and I appreciate you, and I hope that life brings you joy today. Okay, until next time, be well.